New York, 1972. Madison Square Garden, the specific building that has seen more of what human beings are capable of producing in the way of spectacle than almost any other building in the world. Boxing matches and basketball games, and the particular organized chaos of professional wrestling, which in 1972 is not yet the global entertainment phenomenon it will become, but is already something that fills arenas and produces in its audiences the specific combination of excitement and disbelief that the genre has always required. The suspension of certain questions in favor of the raw, physical spectacle of large bodies doing violent things to each other in an elevated ring under bright lights. And tonight, Madison Square Garden is full, every seat occupied by people who came for exactly this, for the specific pleasure of watching someone enormous do something that most bodies could not do. And the someone enormous they came to watch is already in the ring, already working, already producing in the crowd the specific sounds of an audience watching something that satisfies the thing they came here to satisfy. The arena carrying the specific energy of a full house, on a night when the main event is something the audience has been anticipating for long enough that the anticipation itself has become part of the experience. The energy in the building, the specific energy of people who have been waiting and are now no longer waiting and are receiving what they waited for. The specific release of anticipation that only happens when the thing anticipated is actually occurring and is as good as the anticipation promised it would be, which tonight it is, which tonight it more than is, the building itself seeming to participate in what is happening inside it. The way buildings sometimes seem to participate when the thing happening inside them is fully equal to what the building was built to contain. The arena smells of cigarette smoke and industrial cleaning fluid, and the particular charged air of 10,000 people paying close attention to the same thing simultaneously. And the lights above the ring are the specific brutal lights of professional wrestling in 1972, white and unforgiving, leaving nothing in shadow, casting the ring and everything in it in the specific flat clarity of a space that has been designed to be seen from every angle simultaneously. And in the front rows of the audience, in a seat that is close enough to the ring that the sounds of impact are fully audible, and the expressions on the faces of the men in the ring are fully readable, sits a lean Chinese man in a black kung fu jacket and black kung fu trousers and black cloth shoes, black hair, watching the ring with the specific quality of attention that he brings to everything worth watching, which is complete and direct and analytical, reading what is happening in the ring the way he reads everything, looking for what is true in it and what it reveals about the bodies producing it. And no one in the seats around him knows who he is. And this is simply how the evening begins. The lean Chinese man in the front row and the enormous blonde man in the ring occupying the same space without yet occupying the same story. The story that is about to connect them not yet having begun. Hulk Hogan is in the ring. He is 2 meters tall and 180 kilograms of the specific kind of physical presence that professional wrestling produces in its practitioners when they are serious about their work. The long blonde hair and the thick blonde mustache, and the body that has been built for the specific purpose of filling a ring in a way that makes the ring look smaller than it is. Wearing only black shorts, the specific near-nakedness of professional wrestling that is part of the spectacle and part of the communication. The body itself being the primary argument. And tonight, the argument is being made with the particular conviction of someone who has not yet encountered anything capable of countering it. His opponent tonight is a large man who was large enough when the evening began to seem like a reasonable match for what Hogan brings to a ring, and who is now discovering, as the evening progresses, that reasonable is not the same as sufficient. that the gap between large and what Hogan is has been revealing itself with the specific incremental clarity of a gap that only becomes fully visible when it is being demonstrated in real time on a professional wrestling canvas. Hogan moves through the match with the specific combination of technique and raw physical authority of someone who has been doing this long enough that the technique has become invisible inside the authority, the two things indistinguishable from each other, and the crowd responds to each exchange with the specific sounds of people watching something that is producing in them exactly what they came here to feel. The arena doing what arenas do when they are receiving what they were built to receive, which is amplify it, send it back larger than it arrived. The sound of the crowd becoming part of the performance, the way the sound of crowds always becomes part of the performance. The arena and the performer in the specific relationship of two things that need each other to be fully what they are, each one making the other more completely itself. The crowd making Hogan larger, and Hogan making the crowd louder, and the evening building on itself, the way evenings build when everything in them is working as it should. The match ends the way Hogan's matches end, which is with his opponent on the canvas and Hogan standing over him with the specific expression of someone who has just demonstrated something they already knew and is now waiting for the demonstration to be acknowledged by the appropriate number of people. The crowd provides the acknowledgement with the specific volume of 10,000 people, giving an arena what an arena expects. And Hogan receives it the way he receives everything, which is as confirmation, the specific flat satisfaction of someone whose understanding of how things work has just been validated again by the available evidence. The satisfaction of someone who has never had reason to doubt the conclusion and has just been given another reason not to start. He walks the ring perimeter in the specific victory circuit that professional wrestling has developed for exactly this moment. Hands raised, face turned toward the sections of the crowd that have not yet fully registered what just happened, giving each section its moment. The performance of the victory being in some ways as important as the victory itself, and the arena receiving each section of the circuit with the specific sound of people being acknowledged, the call and response of performer and crowd that is the specific music of professional wrestling when it is working as it is supposed to work. He is in the middle of this circuit, somewhere between the northeast corner and the east side of the ring, when something in the front row catches his attention. It catches his attention the way specific things catch the attention of people who are accustomed to being the largest and most significant physical presence in any space they occupy, which is that something appears in the available field that does not fit the established pattern of what that field usually contains. And what Hogan sees in the front row is a lean Chinese man in a black kung fu jacket sitting in a seat with a quality of stillness that is different from the quality of stillness of the people around him, a stillness that is not the stillness of someone watching a performance, but the stillness of someone reading one. And Hogan stops his circuit and looks, and the arena notices that he has stopped and looks with him. 10,000 people turning their attention in the direction that Hogan's attention has turned, the arena becoming for a moment a single organism with a single point of focus. He looks for a moment with the expression of someone processing what they are seeing and deciding what to do with it. And then he does what people do when they have decided what to do with something, which is act on the decision. He walks to the edge of the ring closest to the front row, and he looks down at the lean Chinese man in the black kung fu jacket, and he says, with the specific projected volume of someone who has spent years learning how to fill an arena with their voice, that he has just finished showing everyone in this building what real strength looks like. And he says it with the performative confidence of someone who believes the demonstration was complete and comprehensive and requires no further evidence. And then he points, the specific index finger of someone making a public designation, down at Bruce Lee in the front row. And he says that he does not think this man can stand against him for 30 seconds, and he says it with the specific amusement of someone who finds the idea genuinely entertaining, who has looked at the physical facts of the situation and found them so clearly in his favor that the entertainment is not in the competition, but in the absurdity of the proposition. And then he says, because this is the kind of thing that sounds good in an arena when 10,000 people are listening, that if this man can stand against him for 30 seconds, he will bow before him. And the arena receives this with the specific sound of 10,000 people who are not entirely sure whether what they just heard was a joke or a challenge, but are very interested in finding out. And the interest moves through the arena like a current, the specific current of a crowd that has just understood that the evening may not yet be finished, that what they paid to see may not have been the last thing the evening intends to show them. And the current carries with it the specific energy of 10,000 people who came here for one thing and are now being offered something they did not come for, and are finding that the something they did not come for is the most interesting thing the evening has yet produced. Bruce Lee is quiet for a moment. The specific quiet of someone who is not deciding whether to respond, but is simply completing a thought before responding. And the thought takes exactly as long as it needs to take, which is not long, because the situation does not require extensive analysis, the situation being one that his experience has already categorized and filed and assigned a response to before the conscious mind has finished receiving it. He stands up. He does not stand up the way people stand up when they are preparing for something. He stands up the way he stands up from any chair, with the same economy and the same absence of announcement, and the people around him register this with the specific reaction of people watching something move that they did not expect to move, and the arena registers it in sequence, the reaction moving outward from the front row like a current through water, until the specific sound of 10,000 people understanding that something has changed reaches the back of the building and comes back as a different quality of attention, the quality of an arena that was watching a performance and is now watching something it cannot entirely categorize, something that does not fit neatly into the established vocabulary of what happens in this building on evenings like this one. Bruce Lee walks to the ring steps and climbs them, and steps through the ropes with the unhurried economy of someone for whom a wrestling ring is simply a space that needs to be entered and has been entered. And he stands in the ring, and he looks across the canvas at Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan looks back at him, and the ring holds both of them in the specific way that rings hold things, which is without preference and without judgment, the canvas indifferent to what it is about to receive, as it has always been indifferent to what it receives, as all surfaces are. He stands in the ring. He looks at Hulk Hogan across the canvas, and Hogan looks back at him, and the size differential between them is present in the ring, the way size differentials are present in rings, which is completely and without ambiguity. Hogan, 2 meters and 180 kilograms, and Bruce Lee, 5 feet 7 inches and 63 kilograms, the gap between those two sets of numbers visible to everyone in the arena and producing in the arena the specific sound of 10,000 people who are looking at the same thing and arriving at the same arithmetic and finding that the arithmetic produces a strong conclusion. Bruce Lee reaches up and removes his black kung fu jacket. He does this with the same economy with which he does everything, folding it with a single practiced motion and setting it on the ring post. And what is revealed when the jacket comes off is not what most of the arena expected, which is the lean, unremarkable torso of a small man, but something else. The specific lean, muscular build of someone whose body has been shaped by 20 years of daily serious work. The muscles, not the large decorative muscles of someone who has trained for appearance, but the specific functional muscles of someone who has trained for use, the difference between the two kinds of muscle being visible to anyone who knows what they are looking at, and the arena contains enough people who know what they are looking at that the revision of the arithmetic is audible in the specific shift in the sound of the crowd. The arithmetic being complicated slightly by the new information without being overturned by it. Because 63 kilograms is still 63 kilograms, regardless of what the muscles look like, and 180 kilograms is still 180 kilograms, and the ring is still the ring, and Hogan is still Hogan, and the 10,000 people in Madison Square Garden are still the 10,000 people in Madison Square Garden, and the evening is still the evening, and everything is about to change. Hogan looks at Bruce Lee, standing across the ring from him, in the black kung fu trousers and black cloth shoes, and nothing else above the waist. And he does what he has done in every version of this situation for as long as he has been doing this, which is read the physical facts of what is across from him and reach a conclusion based on those facts. And the conclusion he reaches is the conclusion that the arithmetic supports, which is that what is across from him is 63 kilograms, and he is 180 kilograms, and the ring is 20 feet across, and this is going to end the way things end when the arithmetic is this clear. He assumes the specific ready posture of professional wrestling, the weight distribution and the hand positioning of someone who is about to demonstrate something to 10,000 people, and the arena leans forward with the specific collective body language of people who are about to watch something happen and do not know exactly what it will be, and find the not knowing to be the most interesting part. The specific anticipatory lean of an audience that is no longer sure it knows what it is watching, but is certain it wants to keep watching it. Bruce Lee stands across from him, no stance, arms at sides. The specific non-arrangement of someone who has moved so far past the need for a formal starting position that the concept has become irrelevant. The body available for whatever the next moment requires without requiring any particular configuration to make it available. And he looks at Hogan across 20 feet of wrestling canvas with the expression he has had since he stood up from his seat in the front row, which is calm and direct, and carrying nothing that is not necessary. Dark eyes reading Hogan the way he reads everything, finding in the 2 meters and 180 kilograms across from him the specific information he needs and filing it in the place where that information goes, completing the reading before Hogan has finished settling into his stance, because the reading does not require Hogan to finish settling into his stance, because everything Bruce Lee needs to know is already visible in the way Hogan's weight is distributed, and the way his hands are positioned, and the way his eyes are tracking. And the reading is complete, and what it says is filed, and Bruce Lee is ready before Hogan is ready, which is how it always is, which is the specific condition of someone who has spent 20 years learning to read the human body as a text, and has become fluent enough that the reading happens before the reader is aware of reading. Hogan moves first. He moves the way he moves in every match, with the specific committed force of someone whose size has always been the primary argument and whose size has always been sufficient, crossing the distance between them with the momentum of 180 kilograms in motion, which is a specific kind of momentum that professional wrestling has developed entire vocabularies for dealing with, and that most of the people Hogan has faced in a ring have found to be the central problem of the evening, the problem around which all other problems are organized, the problem that makes every other problem secondary by virtue of its sheer physical fact. Bruce Lee is not there when Hogan arrives. He has moved in the specific way that he moves when he is not demonstrating, but doing, which is with a displacement so minimal that the 10,000 people watching will argue later about whether they saw it happen or only saw its result. stepping offline by exactly the amount the situation requires, and no more. The specific economy of someone who does not spend motion. They do not need to spend. And Hogan's momentum carries him through the space where Bruce Lee was and into the specific problem of a large body that has committed fully to a direction and found nothing in that direction to receive the commitment. The problem of force without a target, which is one of the most disorienting problems a large body can encounter because it is a problem that size alone cannot solve. And in the fraction of a second that this creates, in the specific window between Hogan's commitment to the movement and his body's ability to recover from the commitment, Bruce Lee's right leg moves. It moves the way his limbs move when he is not performing, but acting, which is with a speed that the eye registers as a single event rather than a sequence of events. The full rotational force of his body from the floor, through his legs, through his hips, arriving at his foot, and transferring through the foot into the specific point on Hulk Hogan's face that Bruce Lee has selected with the same precision that he selects everything. The point that delivers the maximum available information to the nervous system of a very large man in the minimum available time. And the sound it makes when it arrives is not a sound that Madison Square Garden has previously produced. The specific sound of a strike, delivered with everything behind it to a destination that was not expecting it, arriving and completing itself in a duration so brief that the 10,000 people watching will spend years trying to describe it to people who were not there, and finding that language is not quite adequate to the task, because the task requires communicating something that existed below the threshold of what the eye can follow, and above the threshold of what the body can ignore, and what it leaves behind is Hulk Hogan going down 2 meters and 180 kilograms of the most physically imposing presence in professional wrestling, departing the vertical in the specific way that large bodies depart the vertical when they have received something their size did not prepare them for, which is completely the full length of him arriving on the wrestling canvas with the specific sound of something substantial landing on something that was not expecting to receive it, and the arena produces a sound that has no precise name in any language. The specific sound of 10,000 people simultaneously processing something that none of their existing categories are adequate to contain. The sound moving through the building, the way certain sounds move through buildings, which is by changing the building, leaving it different from what it was before the sound existed inside it. The arena is completely silent for 4 full seconds. Not the silence of people who are bored or confused, but the specific charged silence of people who have just watched something happen faster than their eyes could follow, and are still trying to locate the event within the available timeline of the last 2 seconds, trying to find where the kick was, and finding only where Hogan is, which is on the canvas, and where Bruce Lee is, which is standing exactly where he was standing before the kick. Right foot back on the canvas, arms loose at sides, expression unchanged since he climbed through the ropes. The expression of someone for whom what just happened was simply what was required in the moment and is now complete and deserves no particular additional attention. The referee is looking at Hogan on the canvas with the expression of a man whose evening has produced something his professional experience did not prepare him for. The people in the front rows are standing. The people in the back rows are standing. The arena is standing in the specific way that arenas stand when something has happened inside them that exceeds the category of what they were built to contain. The specific standing of 10,000 people who came here expecting one thing and received another thing entirely, a thing that is larger and more real than the thing they came for. And the standing itself carries a specific quality that is different from the standing of applause, which is the standing of people who have witnessed something and are registering the witnessing with their bodies, because their bodies are the only instrument adequate to the registration. The only way the size of what they just saw can be properly acknowledged. Hogan lies on the canvas for a moment that is longer than the moments he has spent on canvases before, because those moments were the calculated moments of a professional who knows how to use the canvas as part of the performance, and this moment is different. This moment being the specific, honest moment of a body that has received something real and is taking the time that receiving something real requires. The time that cannot be hurried, because it is not a performance, but a fact. The fact of 180 kilograms that has been put on the canvas by something it did not see coming, and is now in the process of understanding what that means. The understanding arriving slowly, the way understandings arrive when they are large enough to require time to be fully received. He rolls to his side. He pushes himself to his hands and knees. He stays there for a moment on all fours on the wrestling canvas of Madison Square Garden, while 10,000 people watch in the specific silence of people who are not sure what they are watching, whether this is still the performance or whether the performance has been replaced by something that the performance was always pretending to be. And then he pushes himself to his feet, the full 2 meters of him reassembling in the ring with the specific quality of something large that has been knocked down and is getting up again. And he stands, and he looks across the ring at Bruce Lee, and his expression is the expression of a man whose face has not worn this particular expression before this evening, the expression of someone who came into this ring with a complete and fully operational understanding of what he was and what he was capable of, and is leaving it with a revision of that understanding that arrived in the form of a single kick that he did not see and cannot fully account for even now. He looks at Bruce Lee for a long moment. Bruce Lee looks back at him with the same expression he has had since he climbed through the ropes, which is calm and direct and carrying nothing except what the situation requires. Dark eyes, steady and present. The specific quality of someone who has done what was necessary and is now simply waiting for whatever comes next, without having a strong preference about what that is. The arena is watching this exchange with the held breath of people who have been watching a story and have arrived at the moment where the story reveals what it has been about all along. And the arena does not yet know what the story has been about all along, but it is about to find out. And the finding out will be the thing that the people in this building carry with them when they leave. The thing they will be telling someone else about tomorrow, and next week, and next year, and for as long as they have people to tell. Hogan takes one step toward the center of the ring, and then he does something that his body has not done in this ring or in any ring before this evening, which is lower itself. The 2 meters of him bending forward at the waist in the specific gesture of a bow, not a performative bow, not the bow of someone completing a scripted moment, but the flat, honest bow of someone who has just received an education and is acknowledging the teacher with the specific dignity of someone who understands that what just happened is not a defeat, but a lesson. The most expensive and the most valuable kind. The kind that arrives not from a book or a classroom, but from a wrestling canvas in Madison Square Garden when you least expected to need it. And the arena receives this with the specific sound of something releasing. The collective exhale of 10,000 people who were holding something and have now been given permission to let it go. The sound of an arena that came here for a performance and received instead the thing that all performances are trying to be. He straightens. He looks at Bruce Lee, and he says, in the projected voice of someone who has spent years learning to fill an arena, but is now using that voice for something other than performance. You are a legend. He says it with the flat, honest delivery of someone stating a fact rather than paying a compliment. And then he says that he has never seen anyone move that fast. That in all his time in rings and gyms and the specific physical world of professional wrestling, He has encountered many things, but not that. Not the specific thing that just happened. Not a kick that arrived before he knew it was coming and departed before he understood it had been there. And he says that he has never in his life seen anyone that fast. And he says it the way people say things when they mean them without remainder, without performance. The specific flat delivery of someone for whom the words are simply a report of what just happened, rather than a construction of an impression. And the arena hears this, and the arena responds with the specific sound of 10,000 people who came here for a performance, and received instead something that the performance was always attempting to approximate but could never quite reach, which is the thing itself. And Bruce Lee looks at Hogan for a moment, and then he nods. The single nod of someone acknowledging what was said without adding to it. And then he retrieves his black kung fu jacket from the ring post and puts it on with the same economy with which he removed it, and steps through the ropes and descends the ring steps, and walks back to his seat in the front row and sits down. And the arena continues around him. And New York continues outside the arena, and 1972 continues outside New York, carrying everything forward the way time carries everything forward, indifferent to what happened inside one building on one evening, as time always is, as it always will be, long after the building is gone and the people in it are gone, and the evening in 1972 is only a story that someone is telling someone else who was not there, which is how all true things eventually travel, from the people who saw them to the people who needed to hear them. And this one will travel the same way, carrying with it the specific weight of what happened when a lean Chinese man in a black kung fu jacket stood up from a front row seat in Madison Square Garden and climbed through the ropes and removed his jacket and stood across a wrestling canvas from 2 meters and 180 kilograms of the most imposing physical presence professional wrestling had yet produced, and did what he did, in the time it took to do it, which was no time at all, which is the specific duration of things that are done completely and without hesitation by someone who has spent 20 years preparing to do them. The duration of a kick that the 10,000 people in Madison Square Garden on that evening in 1972 would spend the rest of their lives trying to describe to people who were not there, finding every time that the description fell short of the thing itself, as descriptions always fall short of the things they are trying to describe, as they always will, as this one does. And yet the trying continues, as it always does, because the alternative to trying is silence, and silence is not adequate to what happened on that canvas on that evening in that building in New York in 1972, when the lean Chinese man in the black kung fu jacket did what he did, and Hulk Hogan stood up and bowed.